Right, just because I don't know and I like to show my ignorance, I've got to ask, is it melon, methlon, or melons? Got to confess I don't know. Right, my name is Paul. I'm also called Nick Nack, and I talk about TV shows I've watched that I think you'd want to hear my opinion of. In that case, and over the past few weeks, I've been watching the fifth series of Stranger Things, or Stranger Things 5 as it's called, and I just recently caught episode 7, The Bridge. This is what I heard and what I thought. Chapter 7, The Bridge, opens with a black screen, which fades into the opening eyes of Max, Sadie Sink, as she recovers from her years trapped in Vecna's mental construct. Her eyes opened to the concerned face of her boyfriend, Lucas, Caleb McLaughlin, who's been holding her hand for a very long time, and to the equally concerned faces of Robin and Vicky, Maya Hulk, and Amy Beth McNulty, and the almost numb face of Karen Wheeler, Cara Buono. Max has a confession or two. One, Lucas is the person that truly got her out of Vecna's world simply by sitting there, holding her hand and playing a song. And two, she doesn't know where Holly, Nell Fisher, Karen's youngest daughter, actually is. But she suspects Holly is still a prisoner of the deeply angered Vecna. Holly's rescuers will have their work cut out for them. Holly herself, as Max's guest, is still a prisoner of Vecna, and one determined to escape her trap in the monster's hidden base, even though she is very aware that Vecna will come after her should she show the slightest sign of getting free. Even so, she continually struggles to do so. While she's struggling, the scene shifts to show us Jonathan and Nancy, Charlie Heaton and Natalia Dyer, still trapped in the upside-down version of the Hawkins lab, and sees an increasingly frustrated Jonathan trying to break down the door of the room they're trapped in, only to stop
Hammer time!
When Nancy gently points out that getting hurt trying to break the door down would get them really screwed. They can be thankful because the wall opposite the door is broken in by Steve and Dustin, Joe Keery and Gaten Matarazzo. Dustin has some news. He doesn't know where Holly is either, but he knows one thing. She's not in the Upside Down. Okay, so what did I see watching The Bridge, watching this penultimate episode of Stranger Things? What was on screen in front of me? I've already said I felt earlier episodes of this series were heist movies, or followed the same formula as a heist movie. Introduce the characters, introduce the plan, and then watch over the course of the movie as the job goes slowly, ineffably, incredibly wrong. I felt the last episode I saw, Escape from Camazotz, wasn't a heist movie. It was more of a bridging story, a middle eight, if you will, a change of pace before diving back into the main body of the story, the main tune, if you will. I think we're back on course for The Bridge. I think The Bridge is another heist job, or at least it's the start of a heist job combined with the last episode, which I've not seen. There's a good amount of time we watch as our reunited and reintroduced heroes watch Dustin explaining what the Upside Down is. We get them to see how they react to his explanation. The Upside Down is the bridge of the episode's title. It's a wormhole, a connection to the other world that Vecna, Jamie Campbell Bower, is hiding in, and that the monster plans to connect to ours in a ritual that involves Holly and the other kids he's kidnapped. Something our heroes, quite understandably, feel needs stopping. So we see the team in this opening part of a heist movie do what any team of robbers would do: make plans, discuss ideas to carry out the job. No, The Bridge is not a heist movie, whilst simultaneously being the first half of a heist movie. It's the opening stages of a heist movie where the team plan the heist. The next final episode, I'm willing to bet, will be the job itself. There's a few other things mixed in with the plans and notions and criminality and generalized potential heist movies. And yes, there are a couple of geeky points that I'll probably try and talk about quickly later. But there's a couple of emotional heights that caught my eye. The first one was quite simply the opening scene I talked about in the summary. The scene that shows us Max coming around from a coma, or maybe I should be more poetic and say sees her soul returning to her body. That, in the context of Stranger Things, seems to be the more accurate way of putting it. It's an absolute tearjerker of a scene. It's not something I usually praise or put praise on or heap praise on, but it's a beautiful scene to watch, and it's an absolute tearjerker of a scene. The other emotional high point is nearer the other end of the episode. During the bridge, Will, now a Schnapp, has realised that Vecna will prey on a person's weaknesses and fears to get them to do his biddings. Something Will realises over the course of this episode. He realises that hiding his real self, hiding his sexuality basically, and hiding his fear of rejection will give Vecna the emotional leverage the monster needs to have a hold on Will, and that Will's only option, as he soon realises, is doing what a hell of a lot of gay people have done over the years, is quite simply help himself to beat Vecna by outing himself to his friends, and devil take the hindermost. If anything, Will's announcement is even more emotional than Max's recovery, and just as absolutely beautiful to watch. I have to give all of the ensemble cast involved in both this episode and these scenes 5 out of absolute 5, and possibly more in the cases of Sadie Sink, Caleb McLaughlin, and Noah Schnapp. They've played absolute blinders across the two scenes concerned. They've put in one hell of a performance. That's the emotional crisis out of the way. Let's get slightly geeky, shall we? At one stage of the bridge, the team are invading the military base, and in order to get past the main gates, Mr. Clark, Randy Havens, the school teacher, uses his improvised remote control to activate the electronic lock on the gates and says, "Melon!" Something lifted from the Lord of the Rings. At a famous point in the Fellowship of the Ring, the Nine Walkers need to go through the mines of Moria to avoid danger and have to go through Moria's main west doors, the doors of Durin, in order to do so. The doors have a phrase in Sindarin Elven carved on them that Gandalf initially translates as "speak, friend, and enter." In other words, if you're a friend, use the password you've been given and the doors open. It takes Gandalf a frustrating amount of time yelling and presumably swearing in order to realise that he's got the translation wrong. It's not "speak, friend, and enter." It's "say, friend, and enter." All he has to do is say the elven word for friend, and the group can go through the doors. That word, melon. Mellon. It's a nice nod to the story that involved or inspired a lot of modern fantasy. Just as a side point there, how do you pronounce that word? Mellon? I'm not sure. I've heard it as melon or mail on, and Lord knows what else. But given I know Professor Tolkien was a fan of the Welsh language, where a lot of the time that double L gets pronounced as a sort of fl sound, THL sound, I'm convinced it should be Methlon, but I don't know. If Peter Jackson's watching this, I'd appreciate some input. At any rate, the other bit of geekery is slightly darker. At one point in the episode, Carly, 8, Linnea Berthelsen, tells Eleven Millie Bobby Brown, that if it comes to the crunch, they will need to sacrifice themselves in order to avoid capture by the military, and all that implies. Combine that with Hop's comments that he doesn't want Eleven to die, means we possibly have a situation in the last episode. That's not necessarily the bit of geekery that caught me. The thing that did was simply that Kali is a major deity in Hinduism. It's a goddess of death and motherhood and destruction. Sacrificing oneself in however good a cause could be easily called destructive. And it comes from a character with the right name to suggest such a thing. So what, finally, did I make of the bridge, of this penultimate episode of Stranger Things? I will happily admit I get accused of being too enthusiastic about a TV show I'm watching and very samey in response. But I will also admit this. The Bridge is a bloody fantastic episode of Stranger Things. It moves along at a brisk pace. It's well written. It has opening and closing scenes that are just absolutely heartbreaking. Granted, it is not the whole story. I think that will come with the final episode the next time I watch something. And granted, I think Millie Bobby Brown as 11 could have had more to do, both in this and in a couple of the earlier episodes. But The Bridge is absolutely bloody superb and very watchable. It is worth watching this series to catch this episode. Right, that is where, of course, I'm going to leave things for now. But I will thank you for watching this video all the way through, if that's what you've done, and or for reading the original written version over on my blog, Knickknacks Old Peculiar. There's probably a few last things, though. Yes, those of us of a certain age will recognise the t-shirt. It's the cover or the loading screen for Attic Attack, the old ZX Spectrum game. Possibly quite the most fun thing I think I ever played on the Spectrum. That's a whole thing for another time. I will also ask you to feel free to have a look at the rest of my content, to subscribe and explore my YouTube channel, Mr. Cuddy2977, and to follow Knickknacks Old Peculiar if you're on a mind to do so. If you like what I'm doing, feel free to tip. There'll be a link in that corner up there, and it'll probably be mentioned in the comment section under this video. It's accessible by phone or by desktop. Finally, I am going to be watching the last episode of Stranger Things, The Right Side Up, on Friday the 27th of March, and have my written video reviews up by the following Tuesday at the very latest. I will see you next time. Take care, have fun, be good, and be seeing you.